to the seeking system and having it lit up and too much adrenaline and too much all the things, then we're not building in the relaxation and the settling and the calm and the quiet times. So our relationship is part of that seeking system, and we can create an association with that seeking system. So we very quickly say, let's work on relaxation being part of it, which now begins, we start to teach them when adrenaline goes up, how do you find your way back down? So they start self-regulating. So now they don't like to be over-adrenalized. I mean, nobody does. And so even if I'm super excited about something, it's a little manic is not great. You know what I mean? Or as well as stressy. So we teach them tools that they can bring themselves back to that place. So when we work within utilizing that seeking system, we're also saying, hey, let's slow down and we're going to be part of it. And we're going to have quiet times within there. And we do a lot to really reinforce the times of let down and quiet. So even if we're doing something, we go, okay, we're free jumping. That's big and exciting and going and doing. And then they come back and we go, and let's just take a breath and stand here for a minute. And we bring them back to what we refer to as the default position, which is quiet. And we have relaxation built into the criteria of that behavior. So now we don't know mentally what they do, but we can look for overt signs of relaxation. So when we can see them going, okay, soften my neck, soften my shoulders, soften my eyes, you can see that it goes to that physical place. Just like if I go, Jesse, take a deep breath, soften your shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, you physically do it, but it creates the internal as well. Those are put together. Yeah. So if we have our horse go up, then we go down and go, let's just stand here for a minute or walk slowly with some old familiar behaviors. So we go up and we come down. We don't keep right in that whole, it's not just the seeking system working alone. So
and I think that is the reason why so many people are struggling with it, is because they're missing that component. And I even was talking to a trainer last night who had horses who were trained with positive reinforcement. Where Augie just went.
Okay.
Who have worked with horses that have been trained with positive reinforcement and were kind of monsters now. So it's really it's just like any training can be done wrong, so can positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to really help people to get.
And it's that balance. You know, it's not just all one thing. And that's why it's not all about food. If it's all about the food, you've only got seeking system. If you teach them to play the game, and if you teach them to self-regulate, and now you've got the whole big picture. But we do work with that relationship too, and that relaxation, and that being able to work from the calm place. They did a study where they, so, you know, there's dopamine receptors are part of, they block the dopamine receptors in some mice. And then what they did is they would hand feed the mice, and the mice would eat. They could put food within, inches from them. They could see it, they could smell it. Without the dopamine receptors, they would not eat and they starved to death. So the dopamine and the seeking system is an important part of it, but it's not the sole thing. So I think that it's really creating that balance. And I think it goes back to the marine mammals even, where we did play sessions and learning sessions and quiet sessions. And it was this big balance. And the classic conditioning is going on behind the scenes all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. So there is art to it, you know, to doing it correctly. It's still got some art form and some finesse and some thoughtfulness that needs to be part of that big picture. And looking, does my horse feel emotionally well balanced? You know, because that's the real goal, is that emotional balance. It's not to have, if we just want them to do the thing we want them to do, then that's going to be that I'm just doing it, and it doesn't, it's all about the food, and it's not that bonding. Yeah. So that's one of the things we tell people all the time. And this, you may or may not know this, they did a study where they gave animals free food, then they taught them to hit lever for food, and they did it with different species animals. They did it in the early 60s they started, but from it came a term called contra freeloading. Because they tend to ignore the free food and go to the lever for food. So it's not all about the food. When we've engaged them in the game and we're aware of those pieces, it will become more reinforcing than the actual food. We have horses leave food to come play the game.
All the time.
Yeah. So we want to keep that balance in there and that enjoyment of it, but with the relaxation.
And this is why we created our membership, because before we were doing courses where we were teaching people things piece by piece, but they couldn't have access to all of it. And now that they can see the emotional component is so important to it, and we needed them to understand that and not just be stuck in, oh, here's an intro course, here's a course about the under saddle thing. Now it brings it together as a collective. We have a community in there and everything that supports them for when they have moments where they just don't get it and they need help. They can talk to each other and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's why we did that.
And it's kind of like with the horses. It's always the foundation pieces. You know, there's just certain things like if we're getting a little too much energy, we're like, you know what, you need more of the relaxation, the settling, and the liberty, or whatever, the downward transitions and the quieting. But if they were just had this one course, then we're like, but you need this other course. And so now we, just like the horses, you go back to these foundation pieces, the people are the same. You're like, you need more relaxation. You need more motivation. You need more, you know, whatever. So we can kind of keep that big picture alive for people, because it is so much more balance.
Yeah.
Good question that was.